Thank you so much for having me. Um, I'm a vascular surgeon. I'm based in UK, and I was in Gaza during the time of April, and we were there for about a couple of weeks, just before the incidents when the World Kitchen team was killed by the Israeli forces. And we were among the few people who met them on the day before entering, and we were refused entry on the day. And so it was quite kind of, like a very strange sort of a feeling when we were given kind of, an option. Okay, we can go next day after they killed the World Kitchen team. The reason I particularly am starting from that is because we talk about many things, but we do not talk about that how the humanitarians are being considered very different when they choose to work in the Gaza compared to any other part of the world. The restrictions which are on the humanitarians in particularly Gaza are very, very different when you choose to go to, let's say, to Ukraine or other parts of the conflict zones, where you will have no such problems. UN still will be able to provide you maximum facilities. And in this part of the conflict or the world, kind of, you will be entirely dependent on the actual occupier who is going to kind of, give you maximum trouble to perform humanitarian work. So we need to talk more about that, and we need to talk more about the international humanitarian laws and the respect for that and how that's been ignored and not been followed properly. And in the same context, I think I will also have a little bit of a complaint with the international community, particularly in the Western world, who promote and talk about the respect of the international humanitarian laws, and where there is a talk about the medical neutrality, but it's not practically being shown. All the institutes and the global bodies, they have gone into the phase of silence, and they have confused medical neutrality with silence. And this is very important, that we need to highlight this, and we need to say that it's very important to you adopt medical neutrality, but on the principle of being impartial. So this is, we need to focus, and we need to ask more of them to do that. My experience in Gaza has been kind of, very similar to all of my colleagues who have expressed a lot of very painful experiences. Being the background of the vascular surgeon, what particularly I want to highlight is that what I noted was a lot of the targeted killing, targeted shooting with the help of the snipers to all the blood vessels. So any blood vessel in the body, you name it, and I've come across which was specifically targeted. Particularly, I would tell about the superficial femoral arteries in the thighs. And the reason I say is that it had a huge impact on these patients when I was there and I saw, because when the sniper particularly targets this superficial femoral artery around the knee, it damages the whole neurovascular bundle and as well as destroys the knee joint. So even we are able to save, like a lot of them, they bleed to death. And when they come to the hospital and we are able to save, we are able to repair the vessel, it causes a lot of comorbidity. These limbs essentially becomes useless limbs, and people are not able to function properly as a normal kind of, leg after that. And even if they survived the operation, then because of the lack of antibiotics, painkillers, and other, they were getting a lot of complications, pseudoaneurysm, and they were end up having with amputations. So that was having a significant impact on the morbidity of that population, and we were getting a lot of amputees due to that. Then around the limbs, neck, name any part of the vessel. And they were any less, and particularly two-thirds of the patients were again children. And I removed kind of, bullets which were from the groins of the 6 to 8 year old children. And I was not able to explain this, that why there are bullets by snipers in the groins of 6 to 8 year old children. And they were of the bullet of the type, like the which goes and blasts in the body, which had a very significant impact because it goes and it blasts and it causes a significant damage to the neurovascular whole bundle. And that's why the patients were having kind of, the dysfunctional limbs after that. So that's why I noted there was a very large number of people who needed quite significant rehabilitation support. And the physiotherapy department and institute was completely, those facilities were destroyed. So during our stay in the European hospital, we could not see, like I was seeing patient after patient, like including the young age group, particularly children with upper and lower limb amputees, but they had no support. There was no rehabilitation. There were no kind of, any facilities by which they could be helped kind of, in the rehabilitation process at all. And simple things, even, lack of the wheelchairs, lack of the, you forget about the artificial limbs or anything. They were not even basic facilities to help them through the rehabilitation process. Then the another thing which I would also like to say is that the this was kind of, it was giving an impact, like all of this was used like an intentional, the whole damage to the healthcare infrastructure was used as intentional part of the warfare, because that was increasing the so much harm to the local population. That was increasing the number of the morbidity and mortality directly. And that was a huge, huge impact, and that we were seeing. And we all witnessed that. So warfare itself, the injuries due to the blast and things, that was one thing different. But the use of the healthcare infrastructure, destruction of it, the damage to the healthcare workers, that was used directly as a part of as a part of the warfare, and to use it to completely direct damage to that population. And this damage was not only in the secondary care, which we were seeing in the hospital, but it was also seeing in the community. The community setup, like there was absolutely no support to the people, due to which not only the patients who were having suffering due to the direct damage to the warfare, like bombs, gunshot, but people with the chronic injuries, like the renal patients, diabetic patients, they had nowhere to go. I've seen people, who were coming with appendicitis and cholecystitis and who could not come to the hospital in due time, and they died because of that. Simple things which are normally managed in day-to-day life in such a normal way. The another thing which I noted, and that really was, and I felt like that I've come to the time of the medieval times, like literally, and that was horrifying, because being a vascular surgeon, I'm involved in the wound care. So I was going in the because when I was in April, European General Hospital was essentially the main primary hospital, which was the essential main hospital with most of the facilities, who was the for 2.2 million population. Al Nasser was out of order, and the
But
other was only Al Aqsa. And there were a
Doctor,
lot of refugees who were in the European General Hospital, and that were having a direct impact on the sanitation and the cleanliness and other which were directly impacting the patient care in that hospital. And
Dr. Junaid,
lots and lots of patients in the camp outside the hospital. And when I was
Dr.
going to
Junaid,
do a ward round, and I noted there were so many patients who were evacuated from the destroyed Al Shafa and Al Nasser hospital, and they had nowhere to go. And their wounds were just absolutely filled with maggots and larvae. And the another thing which I noted was that they had, a lot of them had the bed sores, because they were just lying literally on the floor with no proper mattresses and wound cares to look after them, and no nursing staff to turn them to give them the appropriate care.